Let's start with talking about some of the biological foundations of human development. So, when we're talking about behavioral genetics, the nature versus nurture debate questions the role of heredity versus environment in our personality. So, whenever I refer to anything that is your nature, that's referring to your genetics, and anything that is your nurture is referring to your environmental influences. But it's not considered a nature versus nurture argument today. It should be viewed as an interactionist model, as I've mentioned previously. Both your nature, both your genetics, as well as your nurture, your environment, are involved in influencing how you behave and influencing how you develop. So while genetic predispositions are important, other factors are in part the effect of epigenetic above the genome changes. So epigenetics describes psychological development as a result of an ongoing bidirectional interchange between heredity and the environment. And behavioral genetics is the science of how genes and environments work together to influence our behavior and can be studied in adoption and twin studies. Those are super interesting to look into. I recommend this documentary called Three Identical Strangers. Although the scientific research behind it may be a little bit spotty, I do encourage you, if you just enjoy twin studies or adoption studies, seeing this documentary because it's really eye-opening and just interesting in general, I particularly think. So let's continue with behavioral genetics. So whenever you're talking about twins, since we're on the topic of twins, monozygotic twins occur when a single zygote or fertilized egg splits apart in the first 2 weeks of development and creates two separate but identical offspring. Now, dizygotic or fraternal twins share the same genetic material as would any other child with the same mother and father. And in the uterus, 60 to 70% of monozygotic twins share the same placenta, a temporary organ connecting the fetus to the uterine wall, but separate amniotic sacs, a thin but tough transparent pair of membranes that holds a developing embryo or fetus until shortly before birth. Now we've got conjoined twins, and how that happens is monozygotic twins whose bodies are joined during pregnancy. We also have the concept of vanishing twins, and as many as 1 in 8 pregnancies start out as multiples, but only a single fetus is brought to full term. And with twin studies, a genetic behavior research method is a behavior genetic research method that involves a comparison of the similarity of monozygotic and fraternal twins. Super interesting. Now, with prenatal development, let's look at the periods of prenatal development. So you've got the first couple weeks, the germinal period. This is where the fertilized egg forms a zygote as a one-cell structure. The genetic makeup and sex of the baby are set. During the first week, the zygote divides and multiplies through a process of mitosis. So if you've had biology before, then you know this pretty well. And, mitosis happens for about 7 to 10 days and has about 150 cells that implants into the uterine lining. Now, the embryonic period, which happens from weeks 3 to 8, upon implantation, the multicellular is called an embryo. The placenta, which is a structure connected to the uterus to provide nourishment and oxygen from the mother to the embryo via the umbilical cord, is formed. Now, cells continue to differentiate. The heart starts beating, organs begin to form and function. Growth occurs from head to tail and from the midline outward. About 20% of organisms fail during the embryonic periods. About 1 in 5 fail during this period. Now, the fetal period, which happens from 9 weeks to 40, the fetus is at about 9 weeks, about the size of a kidney bean, and begins to look human. By 12 weeks, the fetus has all body parts. By 16 weeks, the fetus is about 4.5 inches long with fully developed fingers and toes and visible fingerprints. Organ systems continue to develop, and rudimentary neurons in the brain are developed by 24 weeks. The age of viability is reached at about 22 to 26 weeks. By week 37, all of the fetus organ systems are developed enough that it could survive outside the mother's uterus without risks associated with premature birth.